Welcome to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. I'm your host, Gary Morgan. With me, as always, it's my co-host and fellow masochist Pittsburgh sports fan, Jim Stamm. Jim, how are you doing, brother? Rough week, huh?
Rough week. But this is Pittsburgh. We keep plugging away. We're tough.
We'll get through it. And also joining us today is, in my mind, the most genuine sports talk host in the city. You know him from 93.7 The Fan and KDK TV News Sports Desk and anywhere else he wants to tell you about, since he does all sorts of stuff. He is Josh Taylor. Josh, happy to have you back, sir. You helped us kick this whole thing off after all.
It's good to be back, man. You guys have done a great job. I've been kind of keeping an eye from the background and just watching how you guys are growing in the fan interaction and everybody, and how you guys are really just gaining steam on social media and everything. So it's been pretty cool to be, in on the ground floor and kind of still keeping an interest as time goes along. I'm excited.
That's right. I forgot. He was like
our first guest.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, on the official video show anyway.
Yeah.
We started the show before that, but the first video show, Josh Taylor, yep.
Well, unfortunately, I shaved that day. I didn't shave today, so sorry.
You also had a brand spanking new newborn at the time, so
I did, and he's now soon to be 14 months and probably the size of your average 2-year-old. So I got a little giant here in my hands.
Good start.
Yeah.
So
he's doing fantastic. He just started walking and everything, so he's mobile. Good luck.
I remember those days well.
Yeah.
So, boys, we have a ton to talk about today, and I'd like to get us started by talking about the Pirates pitching. Now, stay tuned, everyone. Not going to go chapter and verse over this roster. Today I want to spend some time discussing how this system works. And ultimately, do we like it? What are some repercussions that come with it? I mean, Jim, we've seen a ton of weird moves with the starting rotation. Openers, piggybacking, short leashes, long leashes. So my first question is, does this even resemble a system to you?
Man, I tell you what, that's a good question. I don't know, Gary. I look at it like we see them try things, and then we're seeing them try something a little different, and then it morphs into something a little different. And I don't want to say the word desperation, because I just don't believe on May 19th that it's desperation. But it certainly seems like they're willing to try anything at this point. And
right.
Shocker, mixed results.
I mean, like, Josh, I want to be kind and say they're trying to be like the Rays, but this ain't the Rays. I've watched the Rays. That's not how the Rays do it.
I've seen Tampa Bay, and you are no Tampa Bay.
Exactly. So what do you call this? I kind of get what they're trying to do, but this ain't a system.
It's hard to put one label on it. It's hard to just say, hey, they're just doing piggybacking, or they're just using an opener. I feel like it's a kind of mismatch of a bunch of different things. I feel like it's a little bit of what Tampa's doing, a little bit of what some other teams are doing, and I had this discussion with Alex Stumpf on the podcast to be named later. It has a college baseball feel to it, and I think a lot of people, when you mention a lot of Pirates fans don't watch college baseball. So you mention that, and it sounds like clicking noises to them. But I try to explain this as often as I can. On the weekends is when you're going to see more of the traditional pitching. You're going to see your best pitcher on Friday night, your second best guy on Saturday. And if you have a number 3 guy you really trust, you might see him Sunday, or maybe a combination of 2 guys that you think can give you a few innings apiece. That's what really the college structure is built like. But they still play games during the week because their conference games are on the weekends. So they're going to put their best foot forward on the weekends. Meanwhile, during the week, you're probably going to see freshmen start against some non-conference games, probably some lower level, lower division opponents. You're going to see a couple guys maybe go an inning or 2 and then piggyback. It starts to vary in the middle of the week, depending on program to program. That's what this feels like to me. It feels like One day, like when Quintana starts, it feels like a Friday night start with your number one guy going as long as he can. Then you get to your number two guy. He maybe doesn't go as long, and then you get to 3, 4, 5. You got a whole different assortment mix of things going in here. That's how it feels to me. So I'm not one of those people that's going to react so harshly to it,
Right.
because if you've seen baseball on different levels, you know what different levels and different teams have tried to do. So that whole pot mixed together is interesting.
I mean, Jim, when I look at it, I guess my question that comes out of what Josh just said is, why are Quintana and Anderson different? Is it experience? And if it is experience that allows them to actually get a little bit deeper into games, how exactly do the Pirates plan on getting any of their own cultivated players to learn how to do that if they never let them? Because look up and down the system. They're doing this noise everywhere.
They seem to be experimenting throughout all the different levels. And, what that tells me is that you might not have enough confidence in what you've got organizationally, depth-wise. And, that worries me. I think if you felt you had the right guys in the right places and the development was there and things were on schedule like you needed to be on that side of things, I don't think you'd see all this. I think it's just a worrisome sign to me. Like, I'm not freaking out over it.
Yeah.
I know that this has been a volatile week on social media for the Pirates, and they tend to stress us out a little bit. And but that's what I'm worried about, is that it just seems to me it speaks to that they know they don't have enough right now, and they're trying to make up for it.
I'm pretty sure that everybody and their mother knows they don't have enough, Josh. But I don't think it's been any secret all along. They're going to eventually have to augment this.
No, it's definitely not a secret.
When they do, though, are they going to bring in guys and then treat them the same way? Or are they going to bring in guys and allow them to pitch like Tyler Anderson and Quintana?
I'd like to think it's going to be more of the latter, because here's the problem, and this is what people aren't going to want to hear. The guys you want to see go deeper into games in the system, they're not here. They may not even be in Indianapolis. There are probably some of them in Altoona and some of them in Greensboro, especially that group in Greensboro last year. Those guys were all really, really good, and you're hoping to see Quinn Priester start to get the ball rolling here at some point. Those are the guys that you're going to expect to see go deep in games when time goes along. But the problem is they're not here yet. And we know, if nothing else, we know this fan base is not interested in being patient for anything to happen.
I was just going to say the P word was coming. I knew it.
Patience is not one of the virtues inside this area code. We all know this very well. Now, granted, and that's warranted. It's perfectly fair to understand that, hey, they're kind of sick of seeing all these different things happen. But the truth of the matter is, when you're an organization that does not have what you need right now, you got to go with what you got in the interim. And I'm going to borrow Mike Tomlinism here on the Pirate Show, but here's what we're going to do. Mike Tomlin always says, if you got red paint, you paint your barn red. That's what this means. This means you got to go with what you got and make the best of it.
I get that. But then I see somebody like Michael Burres excelling in AA, not giving the opportunity to pitch later into games.
Now,
that speaks to the opposite of what you're saying to me.
It does. And there's reasons behind a couple of those guys, too, because you hear people talk about why is it Contreras going longer? Well, Contreras is also coming off of an injury. They're trying to ramp him up. He's a separate situation. Some other guys, I think it's trial and error. I think it's, hey, let's see how much we can trust this guy with. And if the results show, then let's give him a little bit more. Let's give him a little bit more. Yeah. It may be a trust issue with some of these guys who aren't the top pitching prospects in the system, which is going to seem unfair. And it probably is to some of these guys that might have earned a little bit more rope. But at the same time, I think they're trying to keep their minds open as to, hey, not only on a player-by-player basis, but this might come a situation where, hey, let's say if we get to a bunch of situations here, we have a lot of arm injuries during the course of a season, we got guys in the majors, we might have to adjust to things. And I'm going to remind people of this. There was a series last year where the Dodgers started 3 straight games with an opener against the Pirates.
That's right.
The Dodgers did this. The more money than God Dodgers started 3 straight games against the Pirates with openers. And we all know who runs baseball.
That's a good aspect for us to get into. That's a good aspect for us to get into when we come back from a break, because I think we're going to have to talk about pitching in Major League Baseball and how it's changing, and maybe a little bit of why. As far as the Pirates go and their development system, though, when you're on a railroad track, it's real nice to make sure that you see there's more track in front of you. And I'm getting a little frustrated seeing more of the same going on in the minor league system that's happening at the major league level, pretending that someday it's going to change once the talent gets here. You want to train them to be what you want them to be, not what you have right now. So I do hope that they kind of come around and start working on that a little bit. Let's take a quick break. All right, and we're back to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network, and we're going to pick up our conversation right where we left off because it was just getting juicy, and I had to cut it off to pay the bills, as we always do. It frustrates Jim to no end. It gets him in a mood. He yells at me the whole break, so I figured
Josh almost walked off, man. I get irate.
So I figured, Josh, let's start with a legit question. I think that I'm still waiting for somebody to competently answer. Who's more qualified than you?
Oh God!
What exactly is the opener or piggyback achieving? I think I understand what it's supposed to achieve. I'm not sure I'm seeing it.
I don't know if it's supposed to achieve what we expected it to. I think that's the place to start. And I say this all the time. You can have a goal, but that doesn't mean you're going to necessarily achieve it. And I feel like the goal that they probably had, I don't know if they're going to meet it in every situation, just because I don't know if they have enough guys that fit what they're trying to do. I think that's part of the problem. So when you look at different instances where they're trying to start with an opener and you can't trust the guy that's the opener, that becomes a problem, and it really blows the whole thing up. Or let's say the opener does his job well, but the guy that piggybacks off the opener, he can't go 3 to 4 innings and get the bridge to your bullpen. So it still messes everything up. And I think that's part of the problem. I don't think the issue is with the intention or the goal. I think the issue is with the execution, and the execution probably lags because of the available arms they have to try to execute and fail.
I mean, Jim, let's take this week as an example. We watched a game where Will Crow was the opener, right? And Mitch Keller's coming in. And, okay, well, Will Crow has at points this season given you 3-4 innings before. So you use him as an opener. You burn him quick. He gives you 2 innings. You bring in Mitch Keller. He gives you 2.2. You bring, and then you bring in Dwayne Underwood, who does 2.1. Which is more than the opener, which kind of doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. But then David Bednar comes in and gets a 6-out save. I'm very confused by the whole thing. I'm glad it netted a 3-2 win. I would never turn that down. I'm just as happy about that as the no-hit victory. My point is, what did we achieve here? All you've done really is rob the potential innings that Will Crow could have given you.
I think this specific instance that we just watched, and them using those 4 pitchers, it's super layered because, I'm old school a little bit when it comes to baseball, and they finally got Will Crow in a position where he was just dominating and comfortable. What a gift to finally get him in that position. Yeah. And then you yank him out of that. You put him back to starting. You give him only 2 innings. And then you go to Mitch Keller, who, is this now are you now saying that Mitch Keller is the next step in his development, which is long relief? But then you only give him 2 2/3 on 55 pitches, and the minute he gets in any kind of trouble, he was done. And then
they won the game again. So you can't say, boy, that was stupid to take him out. I guess my point though, Jim, is
I don't know, Gary. And then they bring in Bednar.
What are you teaching Mitch Keller? What's he learning in that situation?
That's just it. I don't understand that. And then you pitch Bednar 2 innings and to get the final 6 out, and great, we did it. It felt like we were trying to win Game 5 of a playoff series to me.
Very much so.
I just, what is it? I think it's being unfair to a lot of guys. And I know baseball players, they like some routine and they like to know what's going to be asked of them. And I don't know how you could know right now, from one pitch to the next, one out to the next, if you're on the mound, if you're going to stay in the game or if you're going to come out.
I mean, we're a far cry from talking about pulling Blake Snell out in the World Series here. But I'm just saying, like, in what world is Mitch Keller going to be better starting in the third inning than he is in the first? That makes zero sense to me whatsoever. And if you want to give me some voodoo description of the first inning being different, just like the ninth inning is, so you have to have a designated closer and all that jazz, I don't want to hear all that noise either. This Gary, to me is just a silly extra step they're going through here to try to, I don't even know what the goal they would accomplish would be.
Gary, I feel like Mitch Keller is probably the one guy that if you're trying to find a particular place where he makes sense in this whole scheme, he feels like the man without a country to me right now. And largely because, and Jim, I think you guys pointed this out, he got his opportunity, and the moment he got into trouble, they're like, okay, let's get you out of this and sit you over here. Because I feel like they always are going to get to that point where he's either going to sink or swim. And I think he's sank way too many times recently when they've needed him, not expected him or expected him to develop into swimming, but they've needed him to swim, and he just hasn't. And that's a problem. We bring up 2 innings, 2+ innings, 55 pitches. A lot of pitches for 2 innings. Right. A lot of pitches for 2 innings plus. So when you start to get to that point, and let's not kid ourselves, after about 50 plus is when Mitch Keller starts to have issues. So I understand from the number side of it why they would do such a thing. And I don't know if he's supposed to really learn anything from it. I think it's one of those things that's like, hey, look, get him a couple innings, build his confidence up, and take him out while he still has a positive impact on this game. I don't even know it's about learning as much as it is about building confidence at this point. And he's had those issues for quite some time now, just trying to get his confidence built up because it's taking hits.
That makes total sense what you said about the 50 pitches there with Mitch. I didn't even think about that, so thank you very much. Let's talk about another option though. Let's say the Bryce Wilson the other day.
Yeah.
Okay, they had a terrible opener. Peters, he's been great this year. I'm not crapping on Dylan Peters. Again, though, we're flip-flopping his role. He's been doing really, really well in that long relief or piggyback, whatever the hell you want to call it, role that he's had. And I've really thought he's put some strong effort in. They move him to start. Okay, he gets bombed. Hey, it happens. We've seen it. It's the first time he's really gotten hit this year. He did have that other inning where he walked everybody. But, okay.
For the most part.
Okay.
He's been fantastic.
So, in what world, again, we're talking about this is supposed to have some kind of benefit on these starters or supposed starters or people that could start. In what world is it good to bring Bryce Wilson, who's been struggling like hell, in with the bases loaded in the first inning? What good does that do anybody?
There's no Marvel universe where this makes sense. None. And this is another example of a guy who probably should be doing something different, but he's not performing to that level. Bryce Wilson should be a guy that they should give the ball and trust to go 5 or 6 innings like Quintana. He should be one of those guys in that group because when they brought him in, he was 24 years old. He had experience as a starter. He even had postseason experience.
He's going to get a World Series ring this year.
Right. He's a guy who took the mound for Atlanta and shut the Dodgers down in the postseason one year. So he should not have to be in this position. But the truth of the matter is, like Mitch Keller, he's not doing what he's expected to do. So now you got to find a place where he can get in where he fits in. And I don't know if they found one yet. And that's frustrating for a guy who shouldn't be a Quintana like veteran leader of this group. Right. But he should be a bell cow that you trust to get 5-6 innings a night. And he's not right now.
It's one of those things where you look at Quintana, the way he's pitched, and he's made me eat my words a little bit. Quite honestly, I didn't know if he could help, if he was healthy enough to do this anymore. But yeah, like
Jordan Lyles, Jordan Lyles.
Yeah, but is it that unreasonable to be expecting Quintana, Keller, and a Bryce Wilson to be able to go out and give you 4 or 5 innings? We can't cobble that together here in Pittsburgh.
David Bednar can give you 2.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm like, hey, anybody want to see if David Bednar can go 6? I mean, like,
I don't want to
for
mess
real.
that guy up. He's the one thing that's working the way he's supposed to.
But I'm just saying, like,
Don't
for
touch
real, like, can we just like maybe take a guy who's doing well and stretch him out instead of the opposite?
Hey, let me talk about David Bednar real quick. I don't know that it's great that they're giving him 2+ innings or 2 innings of work in a May game against the Cubs. I'm glad they won it. He's dominant. Do I see that as anything that is helpful long term? No. I don't.
I kind of think it does.
Really?
And the worst part about it is you can't appreciate it the way you're supposed to because it's not beneficial for right now. I think you're right. Doing it in May in a season where you're not expected to go far, it's not going to help you a lot now. But let's say a year or two down the road, let's say it's 2024 and this team is in contention and you get to a point where you do have a starter that you trust to get you 6 innings, and let's say your bullpen gets you maybe an inning and a third or an inning and 2/3, and you need David Bednar for a 5-out save. He's now done it before, and you trust him to do it. Do I hope that they do this with him the next couple years? No, but I like the fact that they're trying to put him in that position now when it's attainable, because if they try it the rest of the season, I'll be really disappointed. But the fact that they're trying it now to see if it's possible, I don't mind that. But I'm like you. If they're doing it in May, fine. I don't want to see it in May, June, July, August, because by September, this kid's in trouble, and I'm worried about it.
For what it's worth, this is the 4th time.
See that?
Okay, so
now you're starting to walk the line, and this comes back to a larger point, though.
It worries me too. For a 6-out save too. He's done 5 multiple times as well.
Now, this is where that worries me, because you get to the point where you're walking a really thin line with this pitching staff. Because I see there's opportunities where they say, you know what, we can get a win, let's chase the win, and that's fine. But then there's other times when they might be able to chase the win, and you wonder what the mindset is behind it. It might be who's available. It might be based on who they're playing. It might be based on if there's a getaway game or if there's an off day the next day. Maybe that's the sliding scale as to why it changes. But I am worried about how they're making these decisions as far as, okay, let's be aggressive here and let's back off here. I think that could be a mixed message.
I like to think it's got a lot to do with not trusting Stratton right now.
That's part of it probably also.
I think last night or the other night, I think you may have seen a little bit of an audition for Underwood to kind of take over a little bit more of that back of the bullpen role.
Well, he looked really good. So, and I tweeted out,
hey,
maybe.
I'm not saying it's going to be a success story.
No.
I'm just telling you what I think is going to happen because I don't see another guy back there. They tried Chase DeYoung the other night.
Well, maybe we can just say this, at least agree on this aspect of it with Bednar. Okay, great. They've tried it. It worked. He's capable of it. Let's not see it a whole heck of a lot anymore. Yeah, I don't know that I need to see that anymore.
So, I think they're hoping to not have to do it that much anymore if things work out the way they're supposed to. I think that's another part of it. They need every other part of this machine to work for all of it to come together.
Let's flip the script here a little bit and let's talk about what this pitching methodology here, what it does to fans, what fans are to think really. This changes the baseball game, the way that this is. You used to go to a ball game when I was younger and you'd be thinking about that matchup. Every night a no-hitter was a possibility. A perfect game was something that could happen just about any night. I don't see that anymore. I don't feel that anymore. I don't even think about it most of the time. And it's not just because I'm a Pirates fan. I'm a baseball fan. I watch a lot of baseball. I don't have the same kind of thoughts. I don't think about wins and losses anymore for pitchers. I wonder if you think about just from the league perspective. How do you ever have a $300 billion pitcher again if this is the way the league is going? And it very much is the way the league is trending. As Josh already brought up earlier, LA did this to the Pirates three times last year. This happens. Everybody's starting to do it here and there. I wonder if long term you're not going to see that big money starter anymore.
I have a couple different theories on this. And one of it is very, very tinfoil, and one people probably might get used to, and then there's one that people probably don't want to hear. The more tinfoil one is that this is probably an easier way to keep guys cost controlled, and you don't want to hear that tossed around because that brings out some of the conspiracy theorists about owners being cheap and wanting to save money. Spoiler alert, it's not wrong. They do want to save money every chance they can because that's what rich business owners do.
Yeah, but
although no one wants to hear that.
When you can back it by analytics, it's really, really difficult to argue
Right.
that it's not in the best interest of the player's health too, isn't it?
That's also true. Now, on the topic of having the $300 million pitcher, I've gotten to this discussion probably at least a dozen times a season in the last 4 or 5 years because I keep hearing, "Oh, this guy's the ace. This guy's the ace." And I'm sitting there going, "Wait. There's like 10 aces in all of baseball now. There are maybe 10 guys that I expect to take the ball inning 1 and have a shot to be there inning 9. Max Scherzer's one of them, and he's on the IL right now. Jacob deGrom is one of them, and he's on the IL right now. There's only a handful of guys. Shohei Ohtani might be one of those guys. There aren't many pitchers I expect to take the ball out on them or pick up the ball off the mound and warm up for inning 1 and say, this guy can shut X team down for 8 to 9 innings and possibly hold them down. That guy, they're just few and far between now. And I don't know if it's the league. I don't know if it's player development. I don't know if it's just how players are evolving. It just seems like it's something that's so rare. And it possibly could be because of the hitter's approach too.
Yeah.
We see hitters be so much more patient. They're taking pitches. They're trying to wear pitchers out. Remember, Moneyball was written 20 years ago. So this revolution is not a new thing anymore. This is something that continues to evolve, and now we're seeing the long-term effects on how it affects pitchers too.
Well, they're clearly brainwashing fans as well. I mean, if you look at Twitter at all, when Green the other day was going 118 pitches against the Pirates in his no-hit bid, Jim, it was the 6th inning. People started complaining about they're going to kill this kid. They're destroying this kid. Nolan Ryan's probably sitting at home like, what you talking about? That kid ain't even warmed up yet. That kid, to Nolan Ryan, a pitcher like Hunter Green is like a Toyota that hasn't even gotten 10,000 miles on it yet.
In fairness, they don't make him like a Nolan Ryan anymore.
No. But Jim, I mean,
not since Nolan Ryan.
Fans are obviously buying in on the pitch count thing, and they're starting to be very protective of them, as we know they can be about prospects. What do you think?
I don't think it's even premature to say that the rock star pitcher is dead almost in
I'm with you.
in Major League Baseball. I think the Max Scherzers of the world and the DeGroms and the Trevor Bauers, who's he's got bigger problems than being injured like the other two, but I mean, they're like Tom Cruise. There's very few big time movie stars left, right? And
Wow.
it's dying off, and I don't think it's going to change. And when you start being able to do things under the guise of this is better for the players, and
Right.
you can really sell that. And hey, I'll be the first to admit, I was watching that game the other day. I think like we all were, because of how freakish the game was going with Green on the mound and what the Pirates were doing. I was a little nervous for the kid. I mean, it was the 6th, 7th inning. He was starting to get up near 120 pitches. I can see, so I get it on some level. I think it's a shame for the game, because we all grew up in an era where, man, getting to see Pedro Martinez or Randy Johnson or even the Greg Maddoxes of the world, boy, that was awesome.
Here's another way to look at it, and Josh, I'll toss this at you. Let's say Michael Burres comes up here, and I think Michael Burres has all the tools to be a really good starting pitcher. Comes up here, he's just everything you'd want in a starter. I mean, he does everything the team wants him to do. He rarely sees the 6th or 7th because of the way the team does things. He's here for 10 years in Pittsburgh. He never has more than 10 wins. I mean, you kind of you can't even put Randy Tomlin below him on the win list, for Pittsburgh Sports. And how does he compete with history?
I believe Randy Tomlin was an all-star for 1 year. I could be wrong, but I think he made an all-star.
You might be onto something.
But Major League Baseball is
fact check that.
Major League Baseball is a league that relies on its history to sell its product. The history, you pull the modern day game into it, and when the stats stop aligning, because you take away the emphasis on wins and losses, which used to be a prerequisite for becoming a Hall of Famer. I remember Jack Morris, the only reason he was in is because he got the 300 number. Right? How do you compare? How is he ever the GOAT, if you will?
Let me answer your question with a question. Should MLB continue to lean on history to sell its product when history isn't the thing that probably sells its product right now? Is that the player's fault? Or is that MLB having a lack of vision and being short-sighted? I don't know. That's the players and the manager's fault. I think that falls on MLB. And one of the gripes I have is that MLB has this thing. They'll have these TV promos with big swings and home runs and bat flips and fans going crazy and guys celebrating, and they'll say, oh, make it major. But if that happens in a certain game when a certain guy's pitching against a certain team at a certain point, if the score's a certain way, all of a sudden the rule's been broken and everybody's upset. So there's a dichotomy there with MLB and their marketing that doesn't make sense to me. That's part of a different part of the discussion. But as far as pitchers are concerned and how all this goes, I've been one of those people that feels like the emphasis on wins has really, really messed up the way we approach the game. The team win is the important thing.
Right.
The player win comes secondary. Now, here's the problem. Because how many pitchers have we seen, guys, go the distance, go 7 1/3, 8 innings, maybe even go full 9, and not get the win because their team can't score? There's times when the pitcher does his job and still doesn't get the win. So if we're trying to use that as some kind of measuring stick as to what should be happening, then I got to start putting the focus back on the other aspects, because a pitcher might end up losing a game because a guy behind him didn't field the ball properly, or the team had guys with runners in scoring position, guys with second and third with no out and didn't cash in.
I mean, say no more than Hunter Green got the L the other night.
Exactly. Hunter Green's a perfect example. And we can go back even further. We can go Harvey Haddix. If you're an old school Pittsburgh fan, you know the story behind that. And it's like, well, how often do you blame the player, or how often do you blame the circumstance? And that's really one of those things where if you're trying to put everything in the same lens, it's not going to look the same. You got to adjust it every once in a while, because it might look blurry here, but it might look clear on another day. And I feel the same way about wins, the same way I do about saves. If you're trying to make decisions to help a player's win the loss mark or a player's save mark, you're going to end up screwing other guys that are trying to help you win games. That's the way I feel about it.
Sure.
And that's the way a lot of front offices are going right now. This isn't just a players and managers thing. Front offices are seeing that, hey, maybe we're doing this a little bit differently because we don't want to jeopardize the opportunity to get the win for the team win column, as opposed to risking putting a guy in an individual guy's column and then losing it.
That's a very, very good point. Interesting.
Yeah, all I was going to add on to that is I think baseball knows what it wants to be right now on the field or off the field through the ad. I mean, one commercial they're walking out of the cornfields in Iowa, and then the next one is bat flips and Pitbull. So
Jim, I've been saying pick a side for years now. I've been saying figure out what you want and go.
But it's coming to a head. So right now things are really in flux. We're seeing it here in Pittsburgh more than anything. Of course, here it's out of more necessity. But right. It'd be interesting to see where it goes. That's for sure.
And I'll tell you what, all this pitching talk has me thinking about Roberto Perez. We should probably make sure we mention that we know he's officially having surgery. He's out for the season.
Big loss.
It just so happens we have a call your shot today that's kind of going to bring this to the surface. So we should probably go ahead and get to that real quick, Jim.
Yeah, I think maybe that's a good idea.
Yeah. And, I don't feel awkward at all about saying she's a really, really cute call your shot person. So I think you might like her, Jim.
Hey, Jim and Gary. With Henry Davis recently getting called up to Altoona and the current catching situation for the Pirates, when do you expect that we might see him in the majors?
So, Jim, are you impressed?
Well, I will certainly say that is 100% unequivocally my better half. So I better just get that out there before we even touch on the subject.
Smart man.
But it is true. So let's just say that first. But listen, she came up with that question on her own. I torture her with Pirates all the time. So I'm proud of her. And, it's a good question because the Pirates aren't committed to anything past this year at catcher. So this is where I will put it. He's hurt right now. Nothing serious from what they're saying. We'll see. He's got a little hand thing going on.
Yeah, I remember someone else that had a little tweak to their wrist too. last year. So,
Yeah. Okay, so let's just say everything's on the up and up and whatnot. I think if he finishes out the year strong, I think you're going to see him be given a legitimate chance out of spring to see what he's made of and see if he can make that push for the roster. I think that that's not getting too far ahead of ourselves. That's how impressed I am with him, by the way.
I'll start with I'm equally impressed by him. I'll expect Super 2 shenanigans next year. And middle of the year is a possibility. I still see them needing a bridge catcher in 2023. I wouldn't be opposed to it being Roberto Perez if they went to his hospital bed and offered him a cheap contract. He might just take it, wondering if he's ever going to walk again. What do you think, Josh?
Oh, if Roberto Perez, Jake tailored it for next year, that would be fun to watch. And for the absolute wrong reasons. No, I'm kidding. I had this conversation with Alex Stumpf literally a few days ago on my show when I actually still had a voice before it disappeared. But we had this discussion about Henry Davis and what he had been doing in Greensboro. He gets called up to Altoona, and the quick impression that he made in Altoona after being there for just a few days. It's clear that the organization likes everything that this guy does, not only from the physical aspect, but the mental aspect of catching and the preparation side. I think they love everything that he does. I think they love his approach to the game, both offensively and defensively. I think they see this guy as a cornerstone of this franchise for the next decade plus, and nothing's going to change my mind, assuming he stays healthy and keeps playing. With all that said, Alex and I are on the same page of we expected him in Indy by the end of the year. We expected him at some point to start the season, probably start 2023 in Indy. Gary, I would think mid-season before the injury. I think now it comes down to not if in 2023, but when in 2023. Will it be mid-season? Will it be All-Star break? I think it's going to happen. It's just how much will this injury affect him? Will there be any more setbacks along the way? And if there are, does it mess that scale up, that sliding scale? But I do think it happens in 2023. Just a matter of which month.
Right. I mean, and we should also probably say we're basing this on a couple games in Altoona, but he has looked that dominant. And from I've talked to Alex quite a bit too. Since we're going to name drop Josh. But
I think we're going to keep it in house. That was the easy way to go. But figure out, put the other guy over.
But Alex, he told us even a couple weeks ago, and we had him on. If you want to talk about somebody that kind of commands that respect when they walk in the room, it's Henry Davis. Everyone stops when he's at bat. Everyone looks when he's hitting. Everyone listens when he talks. It's something this team desperately needs. They don't have vocal leadership, and I'm not opposed to a kid coming up here and taking that because Brian Reynolds isn't going to do it, and Ryan Hayes isn't going to do it.
No, and that's the thing we talk, and this sounds cliche, but I actually do believe in this to an extent. Is some guys just have it, and he has some it to him.
Yes.
And I think that's the only reason I say everything's on the table for next year. And granted, Super 2 and the manipulation of time, yes, it is a factor. But I can just see a guy like that really forcing their hand because he's just absolutely ready. And like Josh said, is the cornerstone. So
if you thought Rosati was mad about Cruz, wait until next year when they do it with Davis. It's going to be incredible because he's going to have the whole Louisville collection too there where he's just going insane. I can hardly wait.
Yes.
Speaking of Twitter, we should take a quick break and come back and have fun hammering some funny tweets that Jim has selected this week. We haven't done this bit in a minute, and it just felt appropriate. So let's go ahead and take a quick one. All right, welcome back to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. It's time to play a little game we haven't played in quite some time called, I don't know what it's called, Jim. We just pick on bad tweets. And so I don't think we have a logo for it or anything.
Maybe we
Eddie's been
should.
really busy. Eddie's been busy.
Pick on bad tweets sound good.
I mean, we do have Andrew now, so I guess, you know. So, Jim, I'm going to let you take it away because this was your homework project from last week. So have at it, man.
Yeah, you know, we haven't done this in a while. It's always fun, at least for us it is. I don't know about anybody else, but, you know, I like to hold people accountable on Twitter, maybe roast them a little bit. Hey, this is all public record. You know, that's how the Jaggies got started. And you know,
if you put it up, you should be able to accept whatever comes from it.
Sure. So
consequences.
Yeah. So I've got a few. So let's just go ahead and start. And let's just do. So this is just a basic tweet about the state of the game, and we'll get it started. I said, listen, this is just a few days ago. I said, there's just so little action in these baseball games anymore. A few singles, maybe a couple homers, and a whole lot of strikeouts. Major League Baseball doesn't have a length of games problem. It has a games are boring as SH problem. Now, I don't think I'm being that crazy there. What do you guys think about this answer from Jack? Get back to your gaming.
So he thinks you're an MLB The Show fanatic, and
I'm apparently 18 years old, and I've got I'm playing Halo during baseball games. I mean, was it anything that outrageous there? Like, can we not all acknowledge that the pace of baseball and the action in the game is way down?
I don't.
It is way down, and it's by design by some people. There's a reason why. You look at any bullpen on any given day, you could probably find a couple guys that can touch 100 on the radar gun. Maybe not as many on the Pirates pitching staff. But there's a reason why teams are loading up with these guys because they're trying to limit contact as much as possible. Because let's look at it on one side of it. On the pitching side, they're trying to limit the contact as much as possible. And on the hitting side of it, they're trying to hit the ball as far as possible. It is all about two extremes at this point, either hitting the ball far or getting on base by hook or by crook. That's pretty much it. So if you're looking at one extreme or another, you're going to get it some days. You're going to get the other extreme some days, and some days it's going to be right down the middle. But that's what we're talking about here. That's how the game has evolved. And for the record, to the gaming comment, there's a lot of gray hair on this podcast right now. So I don't know where that's going because I got a bunch of it up here. That's all I'm saying.
They've messed with the ball so much that you're not even getting the long
every
ball.
year.
But you're not even getting the
ball
long
gets
ball
tinkered
now.
with. You did a couple years ago.
It's
boring. There's no running anymore.
I didn't go on some analytics-driven rant. Just some basic stuff. So, yeah, that got me fired up. So here's another one. This is from Daquito Bazzini.
Wow. I've recently been done with that guy.
Okay, well, we're going to – not yet, you're not. This is what he says. Maybe Bob Nutting can put together a few more of his self-built fan forums to tell us how great the Pirates are going to be in the fairly near future. Then they can gruffly tell all remaining fans how foolish and stupid, parentheses, derp, they are. Big idiots.
I should preface this with derp is my response to anyone that has a really dumb comment that I don't feel like dealing with. I literally just say derp. It's all over Facebook. I do it constantly because it's much easier than just saying, like, are you really not tired of beating this drum yet? Do you really think I care? Derp just fits it. So I do it all the time. I derped this guy. He got real salty. And that's all there is to it. So I should say that's why the show is being attacked. I could care less.
I gotta ask this question. Every time when someone just resorts to, Bob Nutting, I gotta ask the same question. Do you watch baseball or do you watch the Pirates? Because if you watch just the Pirates, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt because you're clearly not paying attention to the global aspect of it. But if you watch baseball, my question to you is, are you new? Did you just get here? Do we know how many owners are selling the same thing to their fans? Do you not see what's happening in Cincinnati?
Yes.
Do you not see what's happening in Oakland? Did we not see what was happening in some of the other places? There was a time, believe it or not, there was a time when people were getting sick of what was happening in Cleveland. There was a time when people were getting sick what was happening in Houston. There was a time people were getting tired of it. There was a time when people were getting sick of what was happening down in Miami. It happens in a lot of places across Major League Baseball.
Right.
If people are assuming that Bob Nutting is just some unicorn, look around. It's all over the place. It's just a different guy's turn every year.
It's not even just cheap ownership, Jim. It's
right.
Some people like I'm a firm believer that there's about 3 teams worth of championship caliber players out there.
That's fair.
I think you could have 2 super teams and one that kind of hangs in there, which is really kind of what we're looking at, right? I mean, if the Mets had their full pitching staff, it would be the Mets and the Dodgers and
probably the Yankees.
Yankees or somebody.
Yankees
So,
and I think the Angels are the ones that are kind of like teetering.
Yeah,
if the Angels had another piece or two, they'd be up there.
The Angels are the ones that get all the real good-looking, sexy hot rods and then forget to buy gas, right? So,
Yep.
So, I mean, Jim, do you have any comments for our friend Mr. Asshat? I'm not going to try to pronounce his name.
I just love the idea that somehow Bob Nutting has the time or the inclination to somehow start influencing the social media. Is there a person that cares less about it than Bob Nutting? Clearly. I mean, based on, so anyways. So, this week was a real test for Pirate fans because we've seen a lot, right? We've seen some bad. We've seen some real bad. But I think if you pay attention to the right people, there's going to be some bad. There's going to be some real bad. You just got to listen to the right people and know where to look. Well, there's a couple people that call them purveyors of pirate propaganda, if you will. That's right. And they're well known on social media. And 2 of them just happen to have enough of the Pirates within an hour and a half of each other on May 17th during the Pirates meltdown versus the Cubs. And our buddy, yes, one of our buddies, Rum Bunter, decides embarrassing team, organization, handling of players, prospects, embarrassing.
Yeah,
okay, and I'll just tell you the other one. Cody Duncan, boy, you better give him credit if he tweets something because. So I'm giving him credit. I'm giving him credit for the tweet right here.
Yes.
This team is a clown show. Well, I'll tell you who the real clowns are. It's the guys that pump smoke up everyone's rear ends and then just arbitrarily decide on one night when they've seen enough that it's somehow different than everything that they've been pumping on social media for how long. And,
exactly.
So it just goes to show how flimsy certain people can be and knee-jerk.
It's all a con, man. It's all a con.
Yeah, so I'll step back now, and I'll let you guys have the floor.
I mean,
I have the same question. Every time something happens and someone declares, I'm through with this team, I'm done, I've had enough, and my question is always the same. It took you that long? It took you that long to get sick of this team? You weren't done in like 2010 or 11-ish?
Yeah,
I usually just say see you later. They'll be back.
You weren't done in 2016. You weren't done, maybe around 2018, 2019-ish. Now it took you this long. I know folks that were done in 1994, okay? It took you almost 20 years after some people were upset about baseball striking in the mid-90s and having that labor unrest. Almost 20 years after that, now you're done with it? It took you that long? Man, what was your threshold? I'm curious. Because a lot has happened in the PNC Park era alone.
You hear the
what
same
was your
things
threshold
about
that it was that high?
The NHL, when NHL player safety doesn't suspend somebody. Oh, I'm done with this game. They don't protect the people.
What is
You're not done with it. You'll be back. Shove that Shove that where it doesn't shine. I don't want to hear it anymore. And as far as Rum Bunner goes, man, like, listen, Rum Bunner is Rum Bunner. They do clicky things. That's what they do. I don't know who runs their account anymore. I don't follow it, to be honest with you. As far as like the writing, there's some stories that are okay. They're worth reading. I don't follow it that much, to be blunt with you. I don't. As far as the other guy, man, like, dude, you ain't a reporter if you saw something on Snapchat or Instagram. I'm sorry, you're not. Like, you just, everybody can do that. That's not being a reporter. And, like, because you tweeted it first, you don't get credit like you magically work for an outlet. You ain't at the AP, son. It's Twitter. It's freaking Twitter. If I run into Antonio Brown in the parking lot of Giant Eagle and he twists his ankle and I tweet it out, it don't mean I broke the story. Like,
this means he broke his ankle.
I mean, like, if you want to be a journalist, fine, be a journalist. I don't care, but like, enough of that noise, man. Like,
you know,
be done with the team. Do us a fucking favor. Be done with the team. I don't care.
This is not an airport. You don't have to announce your departure.
Right. I mean,
let's go.
And then what I will say about it is if it's a surprise to them when they're finally tweeting this, like it just hit them that the Pirates might not be good at times, well, then what does that say about what they're doing? So, you know, like I've said this all the time, there are good journalists, good writers, good podcasters, good bloggers. Find them, reward them. There are plenty here in this town.
We try to have as many of them on here as we can because, like, we want a community. We don't want to just be the one. We want lots of people. We have the guys from Bridge to Bucktober on here. We have Josh Taylor on here. We have Alex Stumpf on here. We have lots of people that actually want to talk baseball in an educated level with you instead of, like, just feeding you a line of crap.
Can I drop this in here on this particular platform? Can I do this right now?
Drop it like it's hot.
It might get me in a little bit of hot water, but I'm going to do it anyway. Imagine working at an outlet where it's technically your job to talk about this team more often than not, and the people you work with don't even like talking about baseball on an intellectual level. You know how frustrating that can be from time to time? That's kind of the world I have to live in, where it's like,
that would drive me nuts.
A lot of other guys I work with are not interested in talking about the actual points of the game because what they won't tell you out loud is that most of them are not watching the game. Let's start there. The next part about it that kind of drives me nuts is it's always in one category or another. It's always, well, it doesn't matter, so who cares? Or, oh, it's just one day, so who cares? So if that's the case, you're not expecting anything to change. And I call this Mitch Hedberg logic. He had that whole joke. Hey, do you want an apple? No, eventually it'll be a core. So you're just really wasting time even discussing it in the first place. To the previous discussion we talked about, I'm going to try to find a way to delicately drop this in here. We're talking about people that have suffered for so long and all of a sudden they're just done. It reminds me of the joke of the bear and the hunter. I'm sure you guys have heard this before. We'll skip all the fine points of the story and just get to the end. You're not in this for the hunt anymore, are you? You're not in it for the hunt anymore. You're just you're living the torture at this point. If it takes that much, you're not in it for the hunt anymore. That's all I'm going to sum that up as.
I mean, I'll sum up what basically happened there, Jim. It's follow the prospects, follow the prospects, follow the prospects. Everything's great. Everything's great. Everything's great. They're all going to be up here in 2022. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, they're not here in 2022. I can't imagine who might have told you that wasn't going to happen. It's kind of crazy that that's the case. Well, let's get big mad about it. That's how we'll solve it. We'll get big mad about it. And as soon as we get big mad about it, everyone will go, oh, they're talking the real stuff now. I get it.
Hey, that was one of the first comments I saw in there was like, man, thanks for telling it straight. I'm like, oh, my goodness. That's a hell of a take, too. So
what's the meme with the guy in the hot dog costume? We're all looking for the guy who did this. That's what it feels like. We're all looking for the guy who did this. That's what it feels like to me.
Oh, man. We went a little bit long, and DK's under the weather, so I'm hoping he doesn't notice. So let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and say goodbye to everybody. Josh, how do people get a hold of you, my friend?
Josh Taylor HD is the simplest way. Facebook, Twitter, usually probably the easiest way. Instagram also. That's where you can find me, but mostly on Twitter. That's where I do most of my interaction online as far as a lot of this stuff goes. So we'll say there.
And thanks for coming on again, man, too. It was really great having you.
Appreciate you guys, man. I
we always
love
have such a good time talking to you about ball. So, Jim, how do people get a hold of you, brother?
Yeah, so basically all Twitter.
Not that they're going to want to now that you're defending.
Hey, I survived other things on here. I'll handle this one. But yeah, all Twitter all the time. Pittsburgh Penguins, Steelers, Pirates, Pitt Panthers. Josh, man, I love having you on, and yeah, we're gonna ask you to do it again sooner than you probably want to. So.
You know where to find me, man. I'm always available at some point or another. So give me a shout.
Sounds good.
Whenever you need me.
And I'm just going to close up by saying, hey, make sure you follow the show, subscribe, rate us, do all those stuff. That's your job. This is our job, the talking part. Then you do that. And then also I'm going to acknowledge that my DMs are loaded with people wanting to be on the show. I will get to you.
Sliding in those DMs, eh?
We will get to it. In the meantime, because there is a queue here, leave us a call your shot. It's a very effective way for you to get on the show quickly, and then we'll get you on the show. Plus,
and it saves you the work of having to date and then marry Jim.
Right,
that's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly. Because he's only going to do that.
I'm sorry.
He's only going to do that twice in this life. That's all there is to it.
No more requests for Jim, ladies. He's shutting it down.
Sorry.
Shutting it down.
Right. And Megan, in advance, you do not have to do it. I know you don't care. It's cool. So, hey, that's pretty awesome. And since it's time for Ben's hockey game anyway, we should probably stop recording and let him go ahead and say
yes, I got to run.
Praise.
Yes, your butt.